Hello, you're watching DD India and I'm Preeti presenting this edition of Self-Reliant India, wherein we get to know more and explore more about an issue, about a topic which will help in country becoming self-reliant in the longer run. Today we pick up cyber crimes. Today we specifically talk of online frauds. Demonetization resulted in withdrawal of 86% of India's total currency value in circulation, leading to an enormous increase in the adoption and dependence on digital payments. 5 years on, digital payments in India are witnessing consistent growth. While the mobile wallet factory is expected to continuously grow, India is expected to cross 927 million internet users by 2025. And by then, you can also expect a proportional rise in the number of hackers also online. Today, the threat of online frauds has grown as exponentially as have the digital transactions. Nevertheless, the government has put in place a number of measures to keep a check on online frauds. To what is the status of these measures and where are we heading to? We will discuss all this in our 1 hour show. Joining us today afternoon are Pawan Dugal, he is cyber expert. Also giving us viewpoints will be Surbhi Agarwal, Senior Assistant Editor, The Economic Times. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. We're also joined by Subimal Bhattacharjee, Cyber Security Expert. And also we will be joined by other guests. But to begin with, when we talk of the online frauds, Mr. Bhattacharjee, I would want you to begin by telling us that what are different types of cyber crimes that are committed in today's time. Online fraud, online digital transactions and online frauds are just one aspect of the cyber crimes. I would want you to begin by acquainting our viewers, what all is covered in the term cyber crimes.
Well, cybercrime is too big a term now. It encompasses attacks right from the individuals to national security assets. So right from individuals to organizations to institutions to strategic national assets. Today they are facing the target of these attacks. And if you look at these attacks, and if you want to classify them, they would broadly fall around intrusion, basically unauthorized intrusion, in which we more easily use the parlance hacking. By means of that, you are either trying to take out information or trying to inject malware into the system. You are trying to inject Trojan into the system that would sit and try to take out things from your computer remotely. And then, of course, individuals regularly face all these frauds like phishing and loss of money from their accounts. We used to call it the Nigerian 419 scam, where something you would be offered, but actually it would be fraud. So the whole expanse of cyber crimes is very large today, but primarily it is a way to entrap you, taking advantage of you being in the network, you being online, you being part of the whole digital ecosystem. And with the number of services, the number of activities that has increased with almost every individual and institution. The pandemic was one of the time where almost a good jump happened in terms of work from home, online commerce, online classes. So gullibly and often, even without understanding, a lot of people get into their trap and then finally, lose a lot of money or lose their identity or, any kind of situation where, they are not in control of their own network. Even privacy over all these years has also become an issue. And many times you see a form of a blended cyber attacks where, two particular aspects of attack, either offering you something, but before that, actually, it is actually some form of a virus that has come in because you were trapped into passing on or clicking into something that you thought was genuine. So, the expanse is quite large, but for our own understanding, it is something that is clearly around an unauthorized intrusion carried out in many forms, either with social engineering or even directly a rampant attack.
All right, I'll take that forward to Mr. Pawan Duggal. Sir, as a cyber expert, I would want you to let us know what is the trend globally, because there is this Internet Crime Report for 2019 released by USA's Internet Crime Complaint Center of the FBI. It has revealed that India stands third in the world among top 20 countries that are victims of Internet crimes. What is your take on that? What is the trend that is being witnessed globally? Added to that, added to that, Canada has the highest number of cases, followed by India. The first in the country in the list is the United Kingdom, followed by Canada, and then the third victim is India.
Well, the coming of COVID-19 has been a game changer as far as cybercrime is concerned. In fact, the coming of COVID-19 has seen the beginning of the golden age of cybercrime. This is the golden age of cybercrime where we have not yet seen the kind of ambit of the new manifestations and avatars of cybercrimes earlier. The kind of losses that they are currently incurring are phenomenal. Well, as per one estimate, the global cost of cybercrime by the end of 2021 will exceed $8 trillion US. So now we are in a scenario where we can no longer wish away cybercrime. Cybercrime is a ground reality. It's a new normal and it is here to stay. In the COVID-19 times, I've specifically looked at how phishing, identity theft, and online frauds have become the topmost cybercrimes at a global level. So in this context, India is no exception. India has already begun to start seeing the cottage industrialization approach of cybercrime. Cybercrime has become a cottage industry. There used to be one Jamtara in India. Now Jamtara is being replicated as a model across different villages, across different small towns where cybercrime becomes economic activity. In a scenario like this, it becomes even more important that we must now come up with appropriate, effective legal frameworks so as to regulate cybercrime at a holistic level. And we as a nation have thoroughly failed in that regard. First and foremost, India does not have a dedicated cybercrime law. We only have certain cybercrimes that are defined under the Information Technology Act 2000. In addition, certain cybercrimes have been added under the Indian Penal Code. But while the 2000 legislation in form of the IT Act had made almost all cybercrimes as bailable offenses, the 2008 amendments to the IT Act did a historical mistake. Barring a few cybercrimes, almost all cybercrimes became bailable offenses, where the accused was entitled to bail as a matter of right. So in a scenario like this, it became so easy for anyone to commit cybercrime and destroy the relevant incriminating electronic evidence. I was the counsel for the complainant in India's first cybercrime conviction in 2003. We were hopeful now the floodgates of convictions will open up. We were wrong. The 2008 amendments nullified all of that. And today, it's such a humongous
All right, so
challenge
there is a
trying to
need
get
of an efficient cyber crime law. That a law has to be put in place. We'll talk more about it, sir. But at present, I'll bring in Ms. Surbhi Agarwal. She's Senior Assistant Editor, The Economic Times. We welcome you to the show, ma'am. I would want you to first, analyze for us, or, how do you gauge the threat of cyber crime at a time when we are aiming for a digital India? At a time when we are aiming of making every citizen digitally literate, there is also this threat of online frauds. There is also this threat of cyber crimes looming large. So what is your evaluation? How big is cyber security a challenge or a threat in today's times?
Sure. So thank you for inviting me to this show. First of all, I would just like to say that, this threat of cybercrime, like you said, is a very serious one, because we are, we have a target of a 1 trillion digital economy. We have seen huge rise in the number of people who have come on board. We have 700 million internet users with around 1 billion smartphone users. And, with this pandemic, more and more people are getting digitally connected. So with this background, the threat of cybercrime looming in front of us, as has been, kind of evidenced by the recent incidents that have happened is very huge, and we need to take steps very, very fast to make sure that we kind of curtail it, not just curtail it, but also make sure that we are very up to date in terms of the threats which are coming up. So if you look at the attackers, they are getting smarter by the day. Mike, the other expert on the panel, Mr. Subrimal, also highlighted some of the threats, some of the kind of cyber attacks which are happening. Mr. Duggal also spoke about, how the law is very weak. But apart from that, I would like to say that, in terms of the awareness, we have to first start off by making people aware of what are the kind of cyber attacks that are happening, what they need to do, because the people are the weakest link in this chain. So they have to be made aware of how they should not fall prey to these cyber attacks. If we look at some of the incidents that have happened in the recent past, then you realize that the attackers are getting very, very smart, and they kind of masquerade themselves as real people or coming from real identities, etc. So, and it is difficult for people also to distinguish what is real and what is fake. Technology is getting smarter, the attackers are getting smarter. So I see a dual role of the government as well as the companies involved in this. Most of the cyber frauds are involving fintech companies. So I see a huge responsibility on the shoulders of these companies, be it banks or new age fintech companies, or government-owned institutions. They have to do a lot to make citizens aware. At the same time, they have to upgrade their technology. They have to upgrade their technical infrastructure to make sure that these threats, as soon as they come up, are quickly gauged and action is taken on them. One of the steps that I think should be taken up immediately is people should have a grievance redressal mechanism right up front. Look, for example, if you're using a bank, that the homepage should have either a phone number or an emergency number where anybody who faces any kind of an attack or a fraud is able to reach out to them very quickly without having to spend, say, 10 minutes on the IVR. These kind of mechanisms, once put in place with the backing of the law and with the backing of other measures, I think they'll go in a long way in curtailing some of these.
All right, ma'am, you're talking of awareness. Mr. Bhattacharjee, when a person becomes a victim of a cyber crime, only then does there arises a need for awareness. Until and unless I face something, I cannot understand what is a cyber crime. So what is your take on that? When we're talking of increasing awareness, how can a common layman be, made more aware? Usage of internet or digitally literate sounds very fancy, but at the same time, how does a common person be persuaded to be more aware? Until and unless, do you think that this still persists, that this scenario still exists, that until and unless a person is not affected or does not become a victim of a cyber crime, there does not feel need to be digitally educated as well?
There's a very good point you have made. If I try to draw a similar analogy, is that only when you are ill you go to a doctor.
Yes.
But at very many points of time you are always advised that every 6 months some of those mandatory tests you should do ever since you become an adult. So it's something like this. But the problem here is that a lot of people are getting initiated into the cyberspace gradually, and over a very quick period of time they need to get into, or they try to themselves master a lot of the activities that need not necessarily give them that space to understand or mature their own understanding into performing whatever they are trying to do. And particularly in the case of financial frauds that happen, I always hold the view, and I've expressed it even here and there, that the banks and all these financial institutions, the extent to which the money they spent on advertising today, even if they take 5% or 10% of that money and start awareness campaigns for their customers, whether at some geographical location or under some resident welfare association, somewhere where an individual is far much more proximally and conveniently placed, then that can go in far much more easily. This is something, this has already become a big social problem. I look at a lot of these kind of cases that happen in far-flung areas, and I keep on getting telephone calls of these phone frauds that happen. Luckily, the government has formed this interministerial committee and have also defined a nodal agency. But on the awareness front, there has to be a kind of involvement of all the service providers, especially the financial providers, that these are the risks involved. This is how you should behave. This is a cyber hygiene habits, that you should develop. It's just not that you send across a sheet of paper or a particular page in your website which has 15 or 20 things listed and nobody reads. So somewhere practically, how you go and talk. During the monetization time, I used to go to some of the tea gardens in Assam and talk to the laborers and the tea pluckers and all, and I used to see their level of happiness and enthusiasm to understand that how they will conduct themselves when they are getting an ATM to pull out money, or even if they are opening an account. So some activity like that, it could become a big voluntary movement also, where the banks facilitate the organizations that go into them. We really need to do that, because as Survi has just mentioned, about 70 crore of the population is now online. We have a few more to go. We are aggressively pushing a Digital India program. If you are not educating our people to be digitally not savvy, but at least careful about their money and how they conduct themselves, then a lot of cases will come up, and the poor people lose money in a split of a second. They lose almost all of their month's earning, or even in the case of many pensioners that I repeatedly keep on getting. So this is something that has to happen. As Pawanji has mentioned about many Jamtaras coming up, this is what is happening on a regular basis. Telephones calls go gullibly, or even otherwise also. More educated people also, they believe, yes, it is from the bank.
Yes.
And then they pass on, their information. An elderly pensioner living alone in a certain place, when he sees that someone posing as a bank manager tells him, is this your account, is this your name, you hold a... But he tries to believe, yes, maybe he's trying to help me because I'm old. Next moment he passes on, and in the next few minutes, all his money goes away. So these are something that has been coming. I haven't really seen, a proactive approach from the banks. I found them resisting even paying people where, the Reserve Bank's circular of 2017 very clearly states if within 72 hours someone complains, they have to get the money. They don't, they create problems. So this is where even RBI's involvement comes in very strongly to, take on the banks if such kind of, negligence or brazenness is seen. So it's a far much larger function. As Pawanji has mentioned, laws require a lot of changes. There has to be responsibility on the service provider. So they have to invest in awareness programs. They have to build up processes and systems within the, premises and their practices that they have to respond to people. After all, lesser number of people go to bank branches and all today. So they're saving there. Why can't they, proportionately invest in trying to reach out to the people and help them when they require? So this is something I think, the Home Ministry is taking some proactive steps. I have seen in one of the Lok Sabha answers that the minister had given about trying to raise the awareness campaigns to satisfactory levels. I think this is a big social responsibility where everyone has to get involved.
All right, we're heading for a very short commercial break. Up next, we'll talk more about what measures have been put forth by the government to ensure security of the people when we talk of, people engaging in digital transactions and online frauds. We'll get you more on that. Stay with us. You're watching Self-Reliant India on DD India.
Namaste land.
Marhaban ila al-Hind.
Zari India. Ni hao.
Salam India.
Namaste India.
Namaskar Bharata.
Muy
India.
Nahnu hunud.
India.
Ma Hindi hasti.
Mung Hindian.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching Self-Reliant India, and today in the program we are talking about cyber threat, we're talking of cyber crime, online frauds, and also what can be done to mitigate this. We're joined in by guests. We are joined in by Mr. Subimal Bhattacharjee. He is a cyber security analyst. We're joined in by Mr. Pavan Dugal. He's a cyber expert. And we also have with us Surabhi Agarwal. She's senior assistant editor, The Economic Times. Mr. Dugal, we were talking of the trend which is being witnessed and what all has to be done. But at the same time, today we are in this age where cyber crimes or, cyber attacks are not just, in fact, the nature of these very crimes have changed. I'll quote web application attacks, ransomware, DDoS attack, clearly established that cyber risk now is not what it used to be earlier. And, we have come to face it as a new reality.
Clearly, cyberspace is a new reality. Things are changing very fast. New technologies are coming in, like artificial intelligence, which are engaging in cyber criminal activity,
Yes,
and which are also being used for fighting cybercrime. The Internet of Things is a cyber criminal's paradise because you can commit any cyber criminal activity therein. There are no standards of cybersecurity that have been incorporated therein. Further, with the advent of now quantum computing coming in, the ability of these cyber criminals to go ahead and break these kind of passwords are going to be very, very enhanced. So I think it's a newly changing paradigm. The important stuff is, let's begin with the basic premise that we are going to be attacked one way or the other. We will become a victim of cyber crimes. Hence, the focus has to be more on self-education. Don't wait for the law because the law may be deficient, may not give you effective remedy. So try as far as possible to adopt cyber resilience as a methodology of life. Even if you get hit with a cyber crime, bounce back to normalcy as quickly as you can. As far as possible, incorporate cybersecurity as a way of life. Please be duly cautious, careful, and duly diligent when you are sharing information. Share information on a need-to-know basis. We all have become global authors, global transmitters, and global broadcasters of data. So a lot of work has to be done, and the onus will be all upon us.
All right, a lot of work has to be done and the onus has to be upon us as well, and not just the government for framing laws. Ms. Surabhi Agarwal, I'll bring you here in. Let's talk also about, the framework which has to be strengthened, which you also pointed out, which Mr. Pavan Dugal also pointed out. I would want you to talk more about it. An effective customer redressal framework was what you were talking of, foolproof security measures also to enable confidence and trust. As also incentives for larger participation and benefits, similar to cash transactions that would encourage more of digital transactions, but also accountability and grievance redressals could be the two catchwords when we talk of improving the system.
Right. So multiple points, I like to make here. First of all, like you mentioned, that grievance redressal has to be very strong. So, all of us must have heard of cases where, some friend, some relative had was a victim of some kind of a cyber attack and didn't know what to do, right? So that situation itself, is such an eye opener where most of the people, they might be from urban areas, but they don't know what to do in case they become a victim of, say, a banking fraud or any kind of a cyber attack, right? So that's the first thing that needs to be sorted out, where the government through awareness, where the companies through large-scale awareness campaigns tell the people that listen, if something goes wrong, then this is how you can reach out to us. This is where you can reach out to us. The MHA also, I think in the last month or so, has come out with new set of guidelines.
Yes.
Where as I said, they've launched state intelligence cells. They've launched a new kind of a mechanism for coordination between states and with foreign countries, between the district level as well as the state police headquarters. They've designated an IG level officer. So all those measures are very good. They are, I think, realizing the importance of protecting people against such kind of cyber attacks. But what needs to be done is that people have to be told of these measures, that they have to be told in simple words that what they need to do, apart from how not to fall for such crimes. They also need to be told that in case they are a victim, then where they need to go to. Like I mentioned earlier, that banks need to have right on their website, right on their net banking page or on their mobile apps, a number where they can reach out to. Similarly, government also needs to strengthen its response time. Right now, we've seen that, there are portals if you click on say cybercrime, there are hazard portals which pop up. Now there needs to be one place where people can go to file a complaint, and that needs to be responded. People go to police stations right now to file complaints, and then they have to run helter skelter. They are just told, okay, go here, go there. That should not be a problem, because we are not in a situation 5 years back we were in, where cyber crime was happening, but it was happening at a smaller scale. Now, with so many people connected, with government transferring so much of money directly into people's bank accounts, and especially the most vulnerable section is the illiterate people who live in poor areas, who have just started using a smartphone, who are possibly not even who can't even read and write. So those are the people who are the most vulnerable, and they need to be sort of taken care of more than the urban people. Also, I'd like to bring in some of the other frameworks that are coming in. So the data protection bill, which is, I think, going to be tabled in the parliament very soon. That's another, framework which I think will go and cover some of the ground. The intermediary guidelines, which have been just announced by the government, they also put some responsibility on the social media companies, on other intermediaries, to put in place a nodal officer, a grievance officer, a compliance officer. So those are some of the measures that needs to be emulated by the banking fraternity. Especially, I would call out RBI here, that they have a big role in this, where they need to direct all the stakeholders in the banking and the finance fraternity to be more accountable and more responsible. Like Mr. Subimal said, that they spend so much of money on advertising. So I think if some of that money also goes into awareness, some of that money goes into technical upgradation, then I think we'll be able to mitigate some of these risks. Last point I'd like to make here is that sure, go ahead.
Yes, please continue, ma'am.
Last point I'd like to make here is that we need to strengthen our CERT mechanisms much more. So we have a national level CERT, which kind of monitors these kind of cyber attacks on a real-time basis. They've launched a power sector-centric CERT recently. They also need to have, banking financial CERT. It was there in the pipeline for some time, but I think they need to just pull up their socks there and have, a fin CERT, and which kind of takes actions, keep monitoring the kind of CERT, because the threats are becoming more and more smarter every day. So we need to be ahead of the attackers in this.
All right, yes, we have to be ahead of the attackers. At this point, I'll bring in Mr. L.N. Rao. He's former DCP, Delhi Police. We welcome you to the show, sir. Thank you so much for joining in. When we talk of cyber attacks, when we talk of cyber crimes, I would want you to acquaint our viewers, what is the status of the crimes today, given, because we, in the past half an hour, we've talked about how the rate of cyber crimes has increased, given the way more emphasis is being paid on digital India, on making more and more people digitally literate, but at the same time, the rise and the prospects of cyber crime, cyber attacks is also increasing. So what is your take on that as your opening comments in the show, sir?
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is definitely a very serious issue, that cyber crime is increasing, and it is bound to increase, because cyber crime has no boundaries at all. Because the people who are sitting abroad, they can commit any cyber crime here in India also. And so, investigating agencies need to improve their skill. As rightly said, Madam was saying that we have to be ahead of the criminals. We have to train our staff, and as particularly in Delhi Police, there are so many cyber cells here. Especially in the crime branch, also cyber cell is there independently, headed by one DCP. In a special cell also one cyber cell is there and headed by DCP. And in districts also, small district level cyber cells have been created. But as compared to the cases which are coming up about the cyber crimes being committed here in Delhi, I don't think that the staff is well trained, and the number of investigating officers is also very less. So we need to be to strengthen the capabilities of the investigating officers, as well as the number of investigating officers are to be increased, so that we can cope up with the criminals. Number one, that very important aspect is that if the crime is being committed by a criminal in the cyber law, and then the people are committing like this, that cyber, as we are going ahead with the digital India, and there are so many banking activities are also there, and Aadhaar card and our PAN card and telephone number, mobile number are linked with these our accounts. So these cyber criminals are taking advantage of all these things, and they are trying and trying to contact the people, and they are misguiding the people, and we in Indians, and I have come across so many people that they don't know about what to do, what not to do. So we have to be as a government and the police, they need to spread our these do's and don'ts to our viewers, so that they are not fell into the victim of this cyber crime. So these investigating officers, number of investigating officers, and the skill of the investigating is also to be enhanced. And particularly when there is some cyber crime is committed, so many people, because that amounts is very small, maybe within few thousand, and they don't report to the police also. So if they don't report to the police, then the criminal is thinking that I have committed a crime and nothing has been done.
Yes.
Number one, there is an ignorance of the reporting about this crime. So my advice will be, whatever cyber crime is being committed to any victim, immediately it should be reported, whether it is taken care of by the investigating agency or not, but definitely it should be reported. And in the police also, I must say that they should also take up all these cases which are reported by the victims of the cyber crime. They should investigate these cases thoroughly, and they should try to reach out to the culprits, so that if the culprits are being arrested and detained and interrogated, they can give us some more clues what are the modus operandi being adopted by these criminals. So we need to be vigilant on all angles.
All right, we need to be vigilant on all fronts. Mr. Bhattacharjee, I would want you to elaborate more, because we've been telling our viewers that steps have been put forth by the government, to make people more aware. Interministerial committee has been constituted. Also, National Cybercrime Reporting Portal has been launched to address the complaints. I would want you to spell out more, for the sake of of our viewers. I would want you to acquaint them what are the mechanisms which one needs to follow, what are the avenues which one needs to follow once he or she becomes a victim of cyber attack. How does one go about?
I think one of the good steps that the government has taken in this direction is the designation of a portal, a national cybercrime reporting portal, cybercrime.gov.in. Now, any kind of cybercrime, once you report there, it gets registered, you get a token number, and then it is passed to the respective state or the agency for the next step. But what happens in many cases also, that even when they are sent to the states, the response then finally becomes absolutely a non-uniform affair. In some states, they take very proactively and investigate, and in many places they go as if the normal way policing happens. And that's where you come to Mr. Rao's point about how do you improve on the skilling, as well as improve and increase the number of the investigating officers. So there is a role where most of the state governments have to invest a lot in terms of bolstering their capacity. And that's where I think, as part of the police modernization program, much more funding has to also to be provided. Now, if you see, police modernization program in most states go into buying vehicles or all, maybe I would say comfort for the officers, rather than actually, going down to field level, helping people who have a real problem with cybercrime awareness, or trying to get an answer when they are trapped in an attack. And then, of course, the usual resistance of going and also complaining proximity to a police station. Cybercrime is no more a urban phenomenon. It has become big time all across, even in the rural places and all. And then, the way in which a person can go and get a redressal from the law enforcement system sometimes remains questionable. But that's where Mr. Rao's point is very important, that we need to take up a mission mode approach to get into this. But coming to the larger part of your question about, what somebody has to do, I think now the fact that this portal is present is, I think, a big step, because if you see law enforcement as a state subject in the country, if if you try and see that if the central government has just done given a 1 point platform, I think it's a great thing. And from there, once it goes down, the response and a follow-up from the central government with the state governments also has to be there, about how they are performing, and an assessment has to be there. But as an ordinary citizen who has been impacted and all, and who has already gone to or taken the route through this portal to complain and all, I think logically even there should be indicated officer of a senior level, where at least they are not taken in circles and going around, and then as usual what it happens, as all of us know. So that's one thing that has to happen. I think a very good thing even the government has done is this constitution of that that F-code, FSIN agency here, which again gets matched up at the state at IG, DIG level as appropriate. I think that's again something that can look at all these phone frauds or online frauds happening as a social engineering mechanism and all. Now, somewhere that accountability has to happen at the highest level. Because otherwise it will be same, it will be just reporting statistics and numbers, and people beyond a certain point would get frustrated and would say, let me lose my money, but it's quite a arduous task of regularly going and following up with a police station or whoever else.
Yes.
So we have to bring that accountability. And of course, on top of all of that, along with the awareness drives, I think somewhere we have to find a way where we give certain sense of orientation to every customer, who is doing some financial transactions online. There is no reason that we can think that everyone would be savvy, or someone can just join and tomorrow he knows all the procedure. Most of the people don't understand. Most of the people still have a fear factor to do something digitally. They rely on someone in their village or town who knows a little bit of IT to log in and all. And very many times we find that these are the people also who become repositories of their passwords, and in turn become part of all the Jamtara kind of networks that flow in. So that's where I feel that a much closer watch has to be done, so that the intent of the portal, the intent of that F-code, FSIN committee and everything actually comes as a savior for the people, and rather than it just remaining a glorified bureaucratic exercise.
Yes, so time and again we're talking of awareness in the program. Mr. Rao, now you're talking of strengthening the capability of the staff, and also how grievance redressal also has to be strengthened. But at the same time, how much of a role does society play in this menace? Because online cyber crimes are not just limited to phone frauds or online frauds. We've had school children involved in various scandals, to the extent of other kinds of crimes are there, wherein emails are crashed, wherein we get emails which are originating internationally asking us to transfer funds, or for that matter a number of different cyber crimes are there in the society. So how much role does society also play? Can we also rope in common citizens to be part of this fight against this menace? How can that be done? Bringing in common citizens in the ambit of the action which is supplemented by the police, by the government as well.
Yes, ma'am. As you rightly said, that the police has its own role to play, and the government has also submitted some directions about it, and at the same time society is also required to play its own role, because they need to be very aware about it. Whatever the instructions are there from the government or from the police, they should adhere to that, because there are so many all the time there are instructions that don't open this email, don't reply to any WhatsApp message, don't send your password, and don't share your bank details or telephone numbers or PAN cards. These instructions are regularly being sent to the public through so many medias. but I don't think that public is taking very seriously. So as a society, as a people, as a resident of our country, we should all see whatever the instructions are there. We should meticulously follow these instructions, and it will be a combined effort of the government, police and the society to fight with this menace. And most importantly, which I said that not only this cyber crime is definitely, as you said, that is related to any bank details or something like that. Even so many nude pictures, something else, nude pictures or videos are also circulated. So people should be all aware. This is also an offense under cyber crime.
Yes.
So all these things should be taken together, and as a whole, we should, if we should take a concentrated effort by all stakeholders, including government, police and society, and also some organizations, you can say that NGOs who are working on these lines. They should all spread an awareness among the people. And so, as rightly said, Mr. Bhatnagar says that this crime is more spread over nowadays in rural areas of our country. So, as I said, that it has no boundaries. Anyone can do any cyber crime from any place all over world. So we need to be very aware about it, and the instructions should be followed meticulously, so that we can be saved by this type of crimes.
All right, we'll talk more about this, and I'll take that forward to other guests as well. But at present, we're heading for a very short commercial break. You're watching Self-Reliant India on DD India, and today we are discussing cyber crime and cyber threats. Stay with us. We'll be back in a short while.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in all Southeast Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching Self-Reliant India, and today we're discussing cyber crimes. We're joined in by guests. Mr. Pawan Dugal, before heading for the break, we were talking of the need to become self-aware. At the same time, we are in the digital era when our, basic identity details are also can also be easily accessed, be it our Aadhaar number, be it our PAN card, be it our other bank details. They can be easily accessed. You were talking of the loopholes in the law. How far and what aspects of the law have to be further strengthened, the cybercrime law to be specific?
First and foremost, the requirement is that India needs to have a dedicated cybercrime law. If India does not want to walk in that direction, the second best alternative is to amend the Information Technology Act 2000, specifically Chapter Roman 11 entitled Offences. Therein, the coverage, ambit and scope of cybercrimes need to be expanded so that more of these newly emerging cybercrimes that have emerged in the last 1 decade, including social media misuse and abuse, including cyberbullying, cyber stalking, cyber nuisance, cyber harassment, need to be incorporated therein. Number two, the specific historical mistake that India committed in 2008 in terms of making almost all cyber crimes as bailable offences needs to be rectified. Most of the cyber crimes need to be made as non-bailable offences with imprisonment and fine so that a message of deterrence can come back, which is currently non-existent. Number three, there's a need for coming up with dedicated cybercrime courts in the country. Because right now, cybercrime has become so predominant that if we are putting it under the normal criminal courts before the MMs, these cybercrimes do not take precedent. And it takes normally many, many years before a cybercrime can be decided. That actually renders the entire scenario very, very infructuous. So the time has come for India to have dedicated cybercrime courts whose only job will be to go ahead and decide cybercrime matters in a time-bound manner. And fourthly, I think there's a need for far more capacity building amongst the law enforcement agencies and the judiciary on the issues of detection, investigation, and prosecution of cybercrime, and also on the issues pertaining to electronic evidence and its appreciation. The Supreme Court in July 2020, in a constitution bench judgment, has redefined the law pertaining to electronic evidence. In the case of Arjun Panditrao Khotkar, majority of the agencies need to be sensitized on how this new law needs to be applied. And further, we must all take steps so that we can enhance and improve our cybercrime conviction rate as a nation. With current conviction rates of being less than 1%, it's high time that we need to go ahead and improve this particular ratio further. I think this current process of providing the cybercrime.gov.in reporting portal is a wonderful step forward, but it does not really serve much purpose, because at the end of the day, it's only reporting. Only about 5% of the matters tend to get registered as FIRs, because policing is a state subject, and then it's left to the subjective discretion of the police whether they would want to register FIRs or not. I think we need to go ahead and encourage more registrations of FIRs so that people's confidence can be boosted. Also, people need to be encouraged that they need to report more, given the problem that underreporting is the de facto norm of the day. At the end of the day, everyone has to contribute. And ultimately, if people can be sensitized about capacity building, on how they can prevent themselves from becoming victims of cybercrime, on how they can actually build cyber security as a part of their lives, that can go a long way in the direction of ultimately trying to go ahead and regulate and deal with this entire increasingly growing menace of cybercrime.
All right, Mr. Rao, I would also bring in your comments at this point in time. Would you also echo the same points which have been put forth by Mr. Dugal when we talk of lesser reporting, more reporting has to be done, and added to that, more accountability and a stricter law has to be put in place?
Yes, ma'am, I fully agree with Dugal Saab. That's a very important need of the hour to sensitize the police department also, because it's rightly said that it's under-reporting. In addition to under-reporting, under-registration of FIR, because all cases are not registered. It's definitely a whims and fancy of police should not be there, that whatever crime is, they want to lodge an FIR, and they should avoid lodging other FIRs. So every crime, cyber crime reported with the police, if it is a cognizable offense is made out, then definitely it should be registered, investigated, and sent for trial, and a speedy trial is also required. I am also fully agree with Mr. Dugal that the stringent laws are definitely required. Now, these bailable offences, these cases of cyber crime should be made non-bailable. Punishment should be more stringent so that there should be a deterrent effect to the criminals. Because right now they think that firstly they will not be caught because there is no identity of a cyber criminal. And it's very great effort. With very great efforts, they are arrested. In a few cases, not in every case, they are arrested. So that stringent action and sensitivity of the police and the more awareness among the public, plus the police sensitization as well as the training part of police in cyber law definitely is it's a long way to go, because not so many officers are well trained in the cyber crime, and the investigation is very meticulous, and it's a very tedious investigation, because we have to find out so many ways and means to go to the criminal, to reach to the criminal, to arrest him before that. So all concerted efforts are required. That police should be sensitized, society should also be sensitized to be aware and to save themselves from becoming the victim of cybercrime. And if it is there, some crime has been reported, then committed, then that should be reported immediately to the police, and police should register a case if there is any cognizable offence is made out. And after doing serious efforts, that person should be brought to book, and the trial should, as rightly said Mr. Dugal, that special courts like other crime courts are being there, because now this cyber crime is going to increase many folds now, because we are heading towards digital India. So we need to be very serious. Our government should need to be very serious. Then special courts are required to be established, so that the speedy trial is also it's done. So therefore these criminals should have some fear of law in their mind.
Yes, I'll also bring in Ms. Surbhi Agarwal at this point, ma'am. We are in the era when, as pointed out by Mr. Rao, a digital criminal does not have any identity, and it's not just India which is falling victim to cyber crimes, but other countries as well. So, in the future ahead, also apart from strengthening our own system, can there also be scope of further concerted effort, collaborated effort between the countries, which would also, help somewhere help in controlling this from becoming a global menace as well?
Sure, sure, sure. So that's a very valid point that you have raised. I was just going to say that, we have left out a very important point in this entire discussion, which is that, cybercrime is not coming just from India,
Yes.
but it is coming from across the borders. And state-sponsored crime is something that is very real. And, given what has happened
Yes.
recently with the attack on the power sector and the ports, by allegedly the Chinese backed hackers.
Yes.
So that's something which is becoming a reality, and we have to be very, very serious about it. When we have to also realize that how we need to kind of fend off against such kind of attacks, because it's not about just finding a person and booking them under Indian laws. Here we are talking about state-sponsored crime, as well as things coming from across the border, which will be difficult for us to, the perpetrators will be difficult for us to catch. But at least we can protect our people against such attacks. So, like you said, that more and more concerted action is required between countries, and in this, I would like to point out, towards an alliance which has been formed across many countries, which is for making sure that abuse matter on child pornography and that kind of stuff is weeded out automatically from the internet. So there is a global alliance for that kind of material. It's called CSAM material. So similar kind of an alliance is required. I think we already have partnerships and treaties with many countries on this, but they need to be further strengthened, where a mechanism is kind of developed where we can act on such crimes, and more information sharing is required, whereby we learn from what is happening. If say a particular country is subject to some kind of a sophisticated cyber attack, then that information sharing is done. Countries do coordinated sort of tracking as well as protection and investigation of such kind of cyber attacks. Another point I'd like to make is that we have to make also understand that more and more young people are using the smartphones and using the internet now, and they are very vulnerable, as well as old people. So these are two sections which we have to be very careful about. Children are more and more using social media, as well as old elderly people. So they are also and they are not very literate when it comes to how to handle such kind of attacks.
Yes.
And they are being harassed. Several instances have come recently. In my knowledge, I was talking to cyber experts where they were telling me that the age of perpetrators as well as victims have come down. And so that's something that we need to realize and act on fast. And this can be done by multiple points. One is creating awareness. Second is putting responsibility on service providers. I think that the RBI needs to put in some kind of a strict mandate on them that they need to spend a certain percentage of their revenue into say creating awareness, into building technological infrastructure. And also laws need to be strengthened, which have been covered by my co-panelists, that government needs to quickly strengthen its laws to make sure that investigation happens faster, so that we have higher penalties, etc.
All right, I'll take that forward to Mr. Bhattacharya as well. So your closing comments on the show today, when digital or digitization, the aim of digital India is empowering us. At the same time, it has made us all the more vulnerable also when we talk of cyber crimes. Your closing comments on that very quickly, sir.
Yeah, I'll just put three things. Number one, as far as the online fraud is concerned and all, if you see on 12th February 2018, the central government had issued an advisory to all the states. Most of the states haven't taken anything forward, in terms of having their own mechanisms of how they tackle the problem. Everyone almost now has a cyber crime department in the police, but the competence level remains very, very skewed. Number two, should we just mention about the child sex abuse material? This is a big menace. Vice President Mr. Venkaiah Naidu in 2019 had taken a great step, got a informal committee of MPs to work who gave 40 recommendations. Sadly, nothing much has moved on that, and I think this is a great time to move on that. Thirdly, institutional mechanisms need improvement and budget. CERT is something that needs to be bolstered up, I feel. Police and judiciary, of course, needs all the hand-holding and support. And most importantly, we have to see that we have the new laws and all, because I think the IT Act and its amendment has run its course. We need to factor in the newer nuances that technology provides to the criminals and the fraud. So that's all.
All right. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us this afternoon on Self-Reliant India. Thank you, Mr. Duggal, Ms. Surbhi Agarwal, Mr. Bhattacharjee, and Mr. Rao for joining us this afternoon and sharing in your insights onto the show. Thank you so much. And that was the gist of the show, wherein we need not only just a strong system in place, but at the same time, we need to make ourselves aware as well, because this, again, it is being said that, we are in an age wherein the aim of a digital India is empowering us, but at the same time we are all the more vulnerable, and self-awareness is only the best protection we can have, apart from strengthening the system, strengthening the laws. On that note, we'll end this edition of Self-Reliant India. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.